Hey there, just a quick reminder, we have a mentorship program if you're looking for personalized coaching and mentorship to help guide you to the next level of your interior design business, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's processes and procedures or what services to offer to how to incorporate wellness, intention, or spirituality into your projects. Come join us over at designcoven.com/join. Or if you're just in search to connect with other like-minded interior designers, you can join our free community, also located at designcoven.com/join. Hello, we are at episode 50. I am so excited. I can't believe it's already here, but episode 50 is today, and we've got Andrew Utt of ICA joining us. So Andrew is the executive director of the Institute of Contemporary Art, San Diego, and is a curator, arts administrator, and educator with a bachelor's degree from California College of Arts and Crafts and a master's degree in museum studies from Harvard University. For the past 20 years, he has worked in the arts with museums, galleries based in California, Argentina, and Colombia. He has managed and developed art educational programs, exhibitions, fundraisers, marketing initiatives, and digital advances in different languages and cultures throughout North and South America, Europe, Africa, and New Zealand. In San Diego, he has worked with the Mingei International Museum, the San Diego Art Institute, and the Museum of Contemporary Art. While in the Bay Area, he has worked with the Museum of Craft and Design, Natural World Museum, and Artworks for Change. In 2009, he co-created VIBA Festival, an international video art festival in Buenos Aires, Argentina, along with an installation at the Eva Peron Museum. In 2010, he co-funded and directed Galería MÜ in Bogotá, the first gallery dedicated solely to fine art photography in Colombia. In 2019, Andrew joined the Lux Art Institute as executive director and engaged in a merger of Lux and the San Diego Art Institute to create the ICA San Diego, where he maintains the position as executive director. Andrew's artistic interests area focus on alternative photographic processes, video art, and contemporary art from the Americas. He currently lives in San Diego with his wife and daughter, and today we dive into his origin story of how he got into the arts world. We also talk about their big opening, which happens to be on Friday, September 9th. All are welcome. You just need to RSVP. The link is in the bio, but I highly, highly recommend visiting the museum, ICA. It's always a fun time, really cool people. It's beautiful to experience, and just surrounding yourself with art. And for myself has been a huge piece of my life. And I'm excited for all of you to get to know Andrew as I have, and again, to join the museum. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello. Welcome back to Bewitching the Home. I have Andrew Utt today with us with ICA, and we're going to talk art, which I'm super, super excited about. It's a huge piece in interior design, of course. And art also plays such a big role, in our spaces psychologically and subconsciously. So this is going to be a really fun conversation with Andrew. Before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and just set our space, connecting us with the present moment by ringing our bell. Just connecting with our breath and our bodies. And of course, I'm going to light a candle. I just love setting space. For me, it's all about the atmosphere and the spaces that we create. So I'm just going to light a beautiful candle, connecting us with that fire element of creativity, connection, and communication. And I'm going to pull up the cards. So today I've got the Radiant Crystal deck, and we're just going to pull a beautiful crystal card to kind of get us in the moment and see if there's any energies that we can sort of embrace while we're talking about art. So what do we have? Oh, banded amethyst. So this is amethyst, one of my favorite crystals. And amethyst is on here, Carrie, the creator of the deck. She has inner strength, cleansing, and release. I always like to think of amethyst as a beautiful, harmonious, kind of peaceful stone, connecting us with our third eye. Just love amethyst. It's like, I think this is like my favorite crystal when I was super little, because purple was always my favorite color, and I was just always drawn to amethyst. Andrew, welcome to the show. Do you nourish yourself with something in particular every morning? Do you have a routine that you practice as far as drinking something to get you in the day started?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here with you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here and to talk a little bit about me and the Institute of Contemporary Art in San Diego. To start my day off, I'm gonna tell a very small story. I tend to tell small stories. Right now, I'm not drinking anything, and I usually waver between different things that I drink in the morning. I oftentimes follow my wife's lead in the morning, but I went through a really long time of drinking coffee every day when I woke up, and I lived in Colombia for over 6 years. And when you live in that country, it's part of your culture, it's part of your life. So drinking small amounts of coffee all throughout the day is very common. And when I would say about 2 or 3 years ago or so, I got to this point where the coffee was really affecting me, and it was causing me headaches. And so I stopped coffee and I stopped alcohol, and it took like 2 weeks of a headache, but it finally went away. And so now I just kind of go with what my body tells me it needs, and I go with that. And so sometimes I just drink water in the morning. Sometimes I'll have the oat milk for my cereal if I'm having cereal with my daughter, and I just kind of go with what feels right.
I love that. You're just totally following your intuition. That's fantastic. In your body. That's great. Love it, love it, love it. So, Andrew, I love asking the question of what is home. I know you spoke a little bit just now about Colombia, but what's home now? What does that mean for you?
I was having this really wonderful conversation with my wife just yesterday about what it means to be from different countries. And we were talking, because she's Colombian, we were talking about what it meant for me to grow up in San Diego and to live so close to the border, and what my identity was, and if I felt this was my home. And I told her, like, pretty much as soon as I left San Diego when I was 18, I moved to San Francisco, and I just immediately felt like I was part of this larger world. And I guess I never really considered like this concept of home as being this place where I was, but rather just as the world. And then having lived now in California, in France, in Colombia, Argentina, I've been able to like be part of that world and feel like I am part of it. And I don't really see one location as home. It is very much where I feel comfortable and happy, and being with family is a big part of that. So I just love being present in that moment of being with my wife and my daughter, and if I'm with extended family, being with them. The home, like the corny saying says, the home is where the heart is. And I feel like that really is true. It's where I am in that moment.
It's so beautiful. I love it. That's so great. I love how you can just create home it's like the whole world is your home, right? And you're able to create that wherever you are. That's so gorgeous. So I want to dive in a little bit about like how you got into the whole art scene. Like, how did this evolve? Did you go to school? Like, I don't think I've ever asked you the story of this, and we've done many events and have hung out many a times, and I haven't really got the chance to ask you, like, what's the origin story? Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, well, it happened probably before I was even born. It felt like a miniature dynasty in the family. Both my grandmothers were into fashion, and they did it for a long time. And even my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she invented the color winter white in Chicago, and this was like in the 30s, 40s, somewhere around there. And so my mother tells me this story of my grandmother showing up at this hockey match in wintertime in the middle of Chicago, and she's just wearing all white. God. And it's like after Labor Day in the 30s and 40s, you did not wear all white, right? Especially not during wintertime. And so it was kind of like a statement. And so she called it winter white. But she was really into fashion, and my parents on both sides, they also got that gene. My father is an architect; he's a practicing architect, and my mother studied environmental design, did interior design for a while, and ended up teaching at an arts elementary school. Both my sister and I both ended up in the arts. We both went to school for art, and so I studied studio art, starting with design. But even before then, I went to the School of Creative and Performing Arts for high school. So when I was 13, I started investing my life into art as well. So it's always been a part of me. I haven't really, I actually did, I should say this, I did have a chance to not be in the art world, and it was kind of exhilarating.
Really? What was it? What was this opportunity?
Well, I ended up working, this was probably about 5 years ago or so. I was finishing up my master's in museum studies, of course, and I ended up getting some part-time job, and it was working for a tech company. And the only reason I think I went into this, because otherwise I sort of despise this whole kind of approach of kind of overworking and overstimulation within tech. And I prefer other types of overstimulation with artwork, but the tech world seemed ominous to me. And so I found out about this job. I think it was so random. I met someone who was blind, and this person who was blind told me all about this service that was available where he could call someone who was live and they could see through the camera on his phone and describe his surroundings to him. And I thought, wow, how incredibly interesting and provocative it is to like have this ability to connect with others on such a really need-based and like tangible basis. And so I ended up working for this company. It's called IRA, AIRA, and they still exist today. And I ended up starting out helping blind people with describing their surroundings. And then obviously, because I'm a super ambitious person, I ended up moving up very quickly in this tech company and working with engagement from a very broad, expansive basis across the United States, and helping to reduce loneliness and increase job abilities and connect blind people with jobs, and to do really amazing things where they build community and make friends and go to school and do all these things that are oftentimes massive challenges for the blind community. And so that really changed such an incredible vision for me about the world. And it was so not art related, right? I obviously brought in some art aspects to it, where I was able to bring this technology into museums, but it was certainly a different pathway that I hadn't expected. Obviously, I was pulled back into museums.
So how did you get pulled back?
Thereafter. So, well, because obviously my family knows that I've been in the art world for so long. One of my aunt's contacts, she was talking to them and they were like, oh, we just opened up this job position at a museum. And she's like, oh my God, my nephew is in museums. Let me send him a message. And I got this random message. Hey, where'd you go to school? What did you study? What all this information? I'm like,
What's
okay,
happening?
what's going on? And so she slowly told me about this job opening. And so I ended up, applying for the job. Totally random, because I thought, okay, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is my tech world life. And then I just got pulled back into it and had conversations and ended up getting hired as the director of this museum in San Diego. And it was, as you know, it was called Lux Art Institute. So I started with Lux, and it was this organization that had been around for about 20 years or so when I started. And it's this beautiful property. As you know, you've been there, Rachel. It's 6 acres of land.
It's gorgeous.
It's a coastal environment. So it's really nice to just walk through, and it has this very magical, good energy vibe to it. We have 2 buildings on the property. The first one that started Lux is an artist pavilion, and it has an apartment down below where an artist can come and be in residence. And then in the gallery space up above, they work on their artwork and they present their artwork in that space. So there's an exhibition. And usually these are artists who are not from the region. They're international artists who come, and as a community member, you can come and meet and speak to them and learn about their artwork and talk about their ideas with them. And then we have another building. It has a gallery and multiple classroom spaces. And so the gallery has space for a regional artist, someone who's from northern Baja, Mexico, all the way up to Los Angeles. And we present really fantastic artists, whether they're emerging or they're mid-career. And then we also have classroom spaces. So we have classes that present ceramics or collage or painting and drawing. There's a broad range of classes that we have for kids and adults. And so I'm saying I'm becoming present now with my language. During the pandemic, I should say prior to the pandemic, we were just growing Lux into this wonderful community space. And that's actually when I first met you, was when you came and I kind of presented myself in all of my, performative glory. Hey, how are you? My face lights up. You know how it is with me. And so we had this really great movement with Lux, and it was growing and the community was growing. And then the pandemic happened, and I was just kind of I hit my virtual digital switch, because I had come from that digital world, and tech is a very strong part of my life too, in terms of the way that I look at it and how it's involved in my life. And so we made that very quick switch. Within 2 or 3 days of the lockdown, we had our first webinar, presentation, exhibit walkthrough. We were just kind of on it. And during that time, I was just kind of okay, who are we and what are we going to be? What are we going to become? And, while the pandemic has been such a reckoning for all different industries, it really makes you think about where we are in the world and what we're doing, how we're doing things. And museums is no different. The concept of what a museum is and how it functions is certainly no different. So I'm thinking about all these ways of how we'll renovate ourselves and how we'll rethink the world and our position in that world. And so prior to that, I'm just going to give a little side note. I had started to have a conversation with this other institution about partnering and expanding our residency and having a space in their space as well. And because of the pandemic, we weren't able to move forward with it. We had received funding for it. We had received support. The boards were super on board with making it happen. And then it just wasn't able to happen because of the lockdown. And so we started exploring this other idea of how can we really come together? How can we start to unite forces around expanding what our community needs and is in San Diego? And how can we change the dynamic and the culture around the arts and ultimately culture in San Diego? How can we rethink that? And so because Lux is in the north
Yeah.
of San Diego, and this other institution, which was called San Diego Art Institute, is in central San Diego. We thought, oh my God, this is also a fantastic opportunity to look at our county as our larger region as one, and not just see it as like different little cities, different spaces that maybe are all connected by a freeway, but rather as one larger space. And so we started having this conversation, and ultimately the result of that was a merged institution. And so the two organizations came together. We changed our name, we changed our brand. A lot of the programs remain the same, but this is sort of getting towards the future, is how it will evolve and how it will change and shift. So that's sort of the origin of the Institute of Contemporary Art San Diego. And ICA, also, just as a reference, has a long storied background. ICA actually started in Boston almost 100 years ago, about the same time as the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And it was always a laboratory for art, for experimenting, of challenging what art should be and how it should be perceived. And so we follow in that tradition. There's about 12 ICAs across the country, and also non-ICAs that are sort of contemporary art spaces that are non-collecting, that fit within that same dynamic of pushing boundaries.
So rad. So can you tell us a little bit about your role at ICA and what you're doing, and kind of expand on what that is?
Yeah, sure. So I am the executive director of the organization, and my role is primarily strategic thinking. So this kind of goes into what we were just talking about, how we sort of see the evolution of the organization and also of museums in general. I mean, strategic thinking is like a big part of what I am doing in this very moment, but it's also fundraising, and they go very hand in hand. Fundraising is really about developing fantastic relationships with people and getting them to see this amazing vision and strategy and future that we have for our region. And so when I am talking with the people who give to the organization and sustain it financially, I'm also talking to them about these larger, sort of expansive, forward-thinking plans that we're doing. And so really, when we started, we've almost now completed 1 year of launching as the ICA.
Wow,
so
congratulations. When's the anniversary?
Thank you. Well, so on September 9th, I'm already jumping the gun here, but September 9th is our season launch. And so September 9th is officially the launch of our second season of artwork. And so we have 11 exhibitions a year. We have all different types of programs. We have lots of events and community building spaces, learning opportunities for engaging people. Now that we're a year in, we've learned a lot about who we are and the programs that we've had. And now is this really fantastic opportunity to push those boundaries and say, what is a museum? What is our responsibility to the community? What is our responsibility to San Diego in the entirety? And I would also expand that to our tri-national region, which is San Diego, Tijuana, and the Kumeyaay Nation as well. And how do we rethink our relationships beyond our space with people and within neighborhoods too? And so those are sort of the directions that we'll be going in the coming years. This is not obviously like something from now until tomorrow. I can just say, okay, we're done, and we're now like going to be a totally different organization. We have to sort of rethink the practices of how do we get there, and how do we engage people to make them part of what we're doing, rather than just saying, okay, we're going to come to you and tell you what you need and what we want to do and all this, and just kind of get your feedback. We also want to make sure that the organization is sustainable financially. And so we have to think too about, what does it mean to rethink our relationship with money, which is a really interesting conversation, because a lot of nonprofits are fully funded, just like ours is, by major donors who give, really large amounts. And I'm talking about $10,000 and above. And that's a lot for the ordinary person, right? So oftentimes these donors are giving so that everyone can have access, which is amazing. It's fantastic. I think that's the one like true amazing part of having a nonprofit, is this sort of altruistic mentality of the larger sort of wealth community and being able to give back to such amazing organizations who do good for so many more people. And I think that some of those structures can also start to shift, right? Why is it that everyone can't be a part of that giving process and think about, micro donations? When we think about, for instance, Bernie Sanders and, AOC not taking any big corporate money, and they really depend upon sort of lower, smaller giving of $10, $17, $20, $25. These are really small amounts that for us, like I got rid of my coffee habit, right? But like, for others who still have their coffee habit and they spend, the whatever it is, $30 a week or more, on coffee, you can make that change too, right? Like you can also give up your coffee. I know it's hard, it's just 2 weeks of headaches. You can get over that. And then, give that income or that expense to something that will ultimately benefit everyone. And it's really a change of mentality. It's a change of the way that we think about the world and how we participate in it, how we give to it, and how we share in all of that. And it's really about celebrating the world around us. And I would have to say too that part of that is having people think. Oftentimes when we think about culture, when we think about events and we decide on something, I was just thinking about this morning before we spoke, some of the things that we make decisions about in our life are like, okay, what am I going to get out of this, right? Like, how am I going to benefit my life? How am I going to have fun? Like, so what level of fun am I going to have at this thing if I decide to go? If I decide to take the time that I have and dedicate it towards this thing, how much fun am I going to get out of it? Like, what is my memorable experience going to be? And I think that it's so hard to make that decision, is like, something that you don't know about, just kind of putting yourself into that place. And oftentimes, the ultimate decision is, well, I'm just not going to go at all. I'm just going to be at home. I'm going to watch Netflix because it's easy, it's cheap, and I don't have to make an effort to go do something. And I think that's one of like the biggest challenges that we have in this world, is having to actually do something, move forward, take that step, and just go with it. And so I guess my call to action for everyone who is listening is to take that step and go and be part of culture. And then when you go and you do these things, the great thing about our museum and our space is that it's not just about like the fun of being around other people and sharing in this wonderful visual experience, but it's also about learning.
Absolutely.
And it's about being open to ideas. And when you start to be open to ideas, your mind expands, right? Art is not just about that experience and being able to have that visual impact or getting a smile on your face and feeling good. It's also about sometimes feeling bad. It's also about making you think about the world around you and pushing your head. What I say it does, and I would say that this is like aligned with the World Economic Forum. I put this out here about, I would say, a couple of years ago. They said these are the 10 top skills that you will need to thrive in the world in the future. And so the top 3, they're not like computer science. It's not like how to market or anything like that. It's creativity, it's critical thinking, and it's problem solving. And when you think about those skills as tangible skills, like, imagine removing, how well you can use Word or how well you can use Photoshop on your resume, and you say like, my top 3 skills are creativity, problem solving, critical thinking. People are just going to get like freak out. It's like, oh my gosh, like you can actually think, you can push your mind. And that's really the power of humanity. Like, let's push ourselves to think about the world around us. And so art does that. It allows us to think critically about the way that we think about the world and how we should be changing or understanding the perspectives about the things around us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just love it. I mean, I feel like that's one of the things that my husband, Tyson, which you know, like going out and experiencing these exhibits or just the events in general and just surrounding ourselves with art and culture has been huge for our relationship. Just it gets us out, it gets us thinking, and also helps us communicate with others and see different perspectives and learn. It's like it's a learning, but it's also very fun. And you know, the people that we surround ourselves with at these events are just, you know, so fascinating, and being able to speak with the artists that, you know, otherwise I would never have the opportunity to get to know or to explore with. I mean, it's huge. It's just like, it's really about, you know, elevating the quality of our lives and yes, getting off the couch and like getting away from things that are super easy and pushing ourselves to try something new. Absolutely. I'm just so grateful for like all the things that you guys are doing. I'm always super inspired by the artists that you guys bring in, and also just, you know, how open and friendly people are, and they want to like connect. You know, we want to build relationships. And for me, even just with design, it's all about building relationships and connection with my team and the people that I'm you know, surrounding myself with within my business and everything else that's going on. And I just love being able to share all these finds and people like you that are doing really rad stuff, and to also elevate, you know, what's going on within our world. And design for me is not just, you know, creating pretty spaces. It is like creating these lives that are connected in all areas, you know, their spirit and their mind, and pushing them and making them expand and think about things differently. So that's why I just love, you know, coming to these events and having you on to share with others that, you know, maybe they don't have me as their designer, but they're learning about these different avenues and different ways of thinking, and bringing in this richness into their everyday.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that we can provide a space for you and your husband to, you know, enjoy yourselves and have fun and connect with others. You know, I have been doing that for so long now in my life, going to art events and openings, that it feels so natural to my life now.
Absolutely.
And my daughter too, I tell this story about how, you know, as soon as she was able, we took her to art openings. And when I say able, I literally mean like I put her in the baby Bjorn and she was 2 weeks old and she went to her first art opening, right?
Too.
And there was a time, there was probably like a year where she was like, I don't really want to go. But now she just like, she does, she wants to participate. And she knows that she's going to see other kids, or she's going to see people that she knows. And it's exciting too, to be able to know that you're part of that community and that you feel welcome and that people appreciate you and they want to be around you. It's like there's this innate desire for us to be around others. And sometimes we just want to hole up and we want to like be in that little bubble that we have at home, and we can still do that, right? But part of it, and I would say this goes back to the thing I was mentioning before about connecting with people who are blind, we can easily fall into loneliness. We can easily fall into this state of disconnect. And I think the pandemic really amplified that, but we can also make changes to our life to really reflect connectivity and thought sharing. And I'm so glad that we can be a part of that. And I am super excited about continuing that and pushing it to even more boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to know what's on the horizon. Like, what do you see coming into the next year? What's going on with ICA, and what do you see coming, or what are you working on? What's brewing?
Sure. Well, so we work in what we call seasons. I think I mentioned that before. And so this season is all around the concepts of value and consumption. And so how do we consume the things that we have around us, and what sort of effect does that have on culture and economy and the environment and society? And so we're really focusing on that theme for the next year. And then we're also really starting to plan out what our organization will be like in 2024, 2025 and beyond, and starting to plan these smaller actions that will sort of invade or be systemic to community-based culture, and how we can think about what it means to be part of a city or an environment that has culture all around it. I was actually just in Tijuana last week, and I met with Secut, which is the Centro Cultural de Tijuana, and the cultural center there, and they told me that they receive 2 million people a year.
Oh my God.
Right? They reach 2 million people a year. And I don't know if you know this, but there's more people in northern Baja than there are in our San Diego region. And so they, it's just a little bit more, but there are more. And so culture is part of Tijuana. It's part of Mexican identity. And so it's one and the same. You know, we don't necessarily have that in San Diego. So the museum that receives the most amount of people in San Diego is the Fleet Science Center. And the Fleet receives 350,000 people. So you're talking about one cultural center that's like art and culture and music and performance and everything arts based, receiving 2 million people, and a science center in San Diego receiving less than a quarter of that. Right. And so we start to think about, okay, what does it mean to have culture as part of our society? What does it mean to have it within every single aspect of our daily lives and in our neighborhoods? And so we definitely need to rethink that. We need to rethink our relationship with culture on a very broad basis and not just a single location basis. It needs to be in our homes. It needs to be in our lives. It needs to be in our streets. It needs to be everywhere, just like it is in major cities across the world.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's huge. I can't even imagine that many people and being able to reach that many people through one organization. That's amazing. So yeah, we have a ways to go.
I aspire to that.
It's like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also don't expect, major changes within like 2 years or 3 years. We have to think generationally, right? Yeah, we have to give that to our children so that they can grow up with it, and then their children can. And that's how we sort of, for lack of better language, infect society, is like we have to get children to be part of culture and part of their own community. And when those children have it, then they spread it onto their families, and it just expands.
And I love that you mentioned the children and this next generation, because all the events, kids are always welcome, and they're, and your daughter is always just running around and mingling with everybody. And it's just a really cool aspect of what's happening. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it.
Thanks. Yes. Everyone is invited.
Yeah. And so how do you guys select the artists that you're showcasing, or, how does that happen? I would love to know a little bit about that process.
Sure. So it's a pretty long process. It's not something that we're just kind of like, oh, there's an artist. There we go. We're going to take that artist, right? And it takes time to identify what are our themes. How do we identify, what are the topics, the large topics we're going to approach. And then once we identify those themes, we start doing some research and investigation around what artists are approaching those topics, and then we start interviewing them. I mean, they're interviews, for lack of better language, but it's really like a studio visit and learning about their work and learning about how they talk about the work too, because we want people to be able to have a really good experience being able to talk about ideas with artists. And so we want the artists to be able to have the capacity to have great conversations with people too. So it's a number of different conversations with a lot of artists. And then from that, we say, oh my God, this person is talking about this really amazing topic, and they're really good about talking about it, and they have such good references and books, and we can connect them with other organizations locally, and there are so many different potential opportunities to work with this person. So we don't have like a literal number scale, but we definitely have like okay, this person reaches this level of engaging, and they have this type of artwork, and they have these types of ideas, and all those things sort of collide in saying this is definitely a person that we want to invite. And it's hard because it's like after we announce our
Yeah.
season, I start getting people who are like, have you seen this artist? Have you
Ah!
seen this artist? Oh my God, this artist would be perfect for this season. And I'm like,
Ah!
that's so great. Like there's literally a
Yeah. Yeah.
millions of artists around the world. You know, it's so hard, but you do have to make a
Yeah.
decision. So we move forward and we bring really fantastic artists. I'm super proud and happy about
Yeah, I
that.
feel like the caliber of artists that are coming in are just, they're at the top. So I was just curious, like, how does that happen and what are you guys looking at? So that's really, really great insight. And I'm sure people just come out of the woodworks of like, oh my God, this is who we think you should look at. But yeah, you kind of have to have that discernment for sure. Can you share a little bit or give us a little glimpse into like an artist that you're super excited about coming in this next season that you might want to share, or can you share a little bit? I know you're opening this on the 9th.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of the artists have been really, I mean, it's really
I
hard
just put you on the
to
spot.
share all the artists I'm excited about. Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, we have 11 exhibitions
Yeah.
every year. And so it's not only 11 artists, but we have a group show as well with regional artists that we help to promote and support them as well. So it's more than 11 artists. And then we also support teaching artists. So there's so much happening. I'm going to talk about what's happening now. So September 9th is our big season launch, and it's going to be a really exciting event and party, so to speak. And the opening, we'll have 2 exhibitions opening at the same time, which we've never done before.
Okay.
So in Encinitas, we have our artist in resident. His name is Ya Obusu. And Ya is Ghanaian. He lives in New York currently, and he'll be visiting us for the month and working on a project. And his work is all about the value of currency, how we value the tangible money that we have, and what does that mean for buying things? What does it mean for the perception of value as well? So he uses pennies to create this artwork, and it's really like flashy, it's beautiful, it's attractive. Yet there, in the literal tangible object itself, there's little to no value at all. And so how do we put value on the things that we have? So that's one artist. And the other artist is Carolina Caicedo, who is Colombian and British. And she lives in LA currently. And she's our sort of regional artist. And her work is, she does these collages with bonds that were used to purchase sort of debt for Puerto Rico to sustain itself. And it's all about the identity of Puerto Rico and how they value their economy, which is so ultimately based on a tourism-based economy. So they really depend upon tourism to maintain themselves. And so they borrowed money from the US government to get them through major financial crises. And so now they're beholden to the United States through these bonds. And so she takes these bonds and sort of cuts them up and turns them into these visual, beautiful spectacles. And then you're able to connect with the bonds and sort of learn more about what it means to have a bond as a country, and what does it mean to have this sort of falsified debt that we create value around.
Wow. And this is on September 9th, right?
September 9th. Yes, put it in your calendar. It'll be in the evening. I think it's 6 to 9. You can check our website, ICASandiego.org.
Awesome.
And there's my little
Yes, and we'll have all the info in the show notes. And of course, I'm going to email it out to everybody that's on my list, and we'll share on Instagram. And how can people find you? And can you repeat the website one more time?
Yeah, so it's ICASandiego.org. ICASandiego.org. And we have all of our events, all of our programs that are happening on that website. There's a way to give as well. You don't have to give $10,000. You can give 17, 20, 25, $1 if you want. You can contribute, and we try to make it as accessible as possible. So everything that we do is free. The museum is free. Our events are free. The activities that we provide for families, we do family days, all of those are free. Our lectures are free. We try to provide as much freeness as possible. And so, we also ask that if you want to contribute to help making that possible, you can. It's not a requirement. We want everyone to have access to what we do. But, small gifts help make things possible. So if you decide to RSVP, give $5-10, and make it possible for others to also experience that who can't afford that.
And can you tell us what's the membership fee if somebody wanted to become a member?
Sure. Oh my gosh, you're starting to ask me like more
I
detailed
think it's like
questions
$50
here.
a month or $50 a year. I think
It does. Yeah, it starts at $50 a year, and it can go up from there. So yeah, contribute, make that ongoing. You can also have it be monthly too. So
Okay.
I think you can pay as little as $5 a
Amazing.
month or something like that.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's easily a coffee. I mean, coffee is now $5,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So
All
yeah.
right, sweet. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on. I so appreciate your time and your enthusiasm. And it's always a great time whenever we get to spend time together and experience art. So huge gratitude.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. Really great to see you. And I'll see you on September
Yes,
9th.
I will be there. You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge and leave us a 5-star review that helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events. So everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.